Off. We're gonna give me a sec here. Okay. I think we're live. You see us over there?
I'm alive.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We got a full house tonight. We're at our Get Hooked with Sam Heaton tonight, and we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of time, but I want to just review quickly a couple of things. There's some people who went with us to our Bahamas, and our trip to West End was awesome. We had a great time, and anybody interested in doing that next year, I'd recommend getting in with. Come by, talk to me. Everybody had a great time. So it was the ride over wasn't too bad. It was a little bumpy, but it was for the most part. I think everybody enjoyed it.
Y'all did great.
Yeah, and there's also some video on. We have it on YouTube, or is it on our Facebook? So if you go to our page, obviously you're there now, and we've got some video there from both our West End trip and our Bimini trip. So check it out. We had a great time, and Sam and I actually got to fish last week.
How you doing? Great day
today.
You were kind of hoggy on the fish, but
I can't.
I'm thinking about taking applications for a new co-host.
Hey, the fish were biting my line.
You did good.
We got a couple sales.
I had to talk one out of spitting mine out and biting yours.
Yeah, you did.
We'll get into that. But no, we had a good time. And it's been pretty good out there. The Bahi have been pretty good. The Sailfish have been real good. And y'all are going to laugh when I tell you this, but I've heard about it. There's a difference between a bonita and a little tuna. And if you look at them, you can tell that difference. So before we went fishing, I caught a little tuna. He was pretty good size. I would say he's probably 15, 20 pounds. And I said, I'm going to see what this is all about. So I took that thing home and cleaned him just like you would a blackfin tuna. And now
you didn't bleed it or anything?
I bled it. I bled it in the fish box, and of course I had ice in there and kept it good and cold. That's a lot of people don't realize, man. When you catch these fish in August and July, you have got to buy an extra bag of ice. If you don't keep them on ice, they're not going to be good when you eat them. But anyway, but I staked that thing out and cooked it. We made sashimi out of part of it, and my wife didn't really eat much of that, but it was good. But then I seared it on the grill. It was delicious. It was delicious. Now, it was a little tuna. It wasn't a bonita, but I don't know. I found a new species of fish, and at $39 a pound at Fresh Market.
So the one that I caught.
You caught.
Was that a little tuna?
That was a little tuna.
Okay.
If you look it up on Fish Tales on your app, you can see the difference. The markings on the tuna run vertical. Horizontal. But the markings on a bonita, it'll run up and down. So you can tell the difference. And like I say, I cut its throat, bled it real good.
So everybody makes the mistake of calling
bonitas.
them bonitas. Because I don't think we catch a lot of true bonitas here.
No, I don't think
most of the fish we're catching are little tunnies.
And a guy from New Jersey is the one that put me on that. He said, that's not a bonita. I said, well, you're crazy. It's a bonita. He said, it's not a bonita. I said, look, dude, I've caught 1,000 of these things. I know what I'm talking about. So he gets his phone out, and that phone wasn't real tasty. It could have used some more salt, but I ate my words. It's a little tuna. So try to, if you like tuna, man, that's a great.
Fresh. Which part did you do for sashimi?
I did the back part of the tail. It sliced it real thin and cut it up and put soy and fish oil and a little bit of red spice sauce. It was a little bit warm. That fish oil, a little bit warm, but I like it. You know, I like a little bite when you eat that, eat it raw, especially if you're going to eat it raw. And the only reason I used it because we didn't have any wasabi.
Well, I might try it one day.
You'll try. You'll like it. And
I like fish, so I'm
I do too.
I guess if I had to eat it, I'd eat it.
But talking about fishing, I've got a couple of things I want to talk about this week. And you know, how many of you have y'all heard that? Well, I don't use wire because fish won't bite it. And I used to be one of those advocates. I wouldn't use a lot of wire. If I put out 4 rods, I'd put 2 out with wire and 2 out with mono. 60-pound mono is what I used. But I found a new leader. It's this titanium toothproof. Now, it's a little more expensive than your regular, it's a lot more expensive than your regular wire. This pack right here has, it's 40 pounds and it's 15 feet and it was $27. But I'm going to tell you, this makes all the difference in the world. It's black, and I've had mahi hit it, I've had sailfish hit it, I've had little tuna fish hit it, I've had just about kingfish hit it, and you know, I really am impressed with it.
So you can tie it like a regular knot?
You can tie it like a regular, well, you can't do a bimini twist, or you can't do
a cinch knot,
cinch knot, figure 8. The way I tie my hook on is I just use a figure 8 knot, and I have not had one come undone.
So you're only using a short.
I start off with an 18-inch piece, and then I tie it directly to my 60-pound mono, and then tie it directly to my hook. And after I catch a couple of fish, that wire will get frayed just a little bit. Some of that coating will come off just a little bit, and then I'll cut it back and tie it back on. And I usually get 2 or 3 fish out of an 18-inch piece. Are you using a swivel
to connect to the
No,
plate?
I'm not. Now, I have been using a swivel on my down rod, because you like a
So you keep it twisted.
a 1 ounce a 1 ounce barrel weight or a 3/4 ounce barrel weight. I like for them to hit that swivel where they don't slide all the way down your line. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'll use a little bead. I'll use a bead between my my lead and my swivel, a little red bead to kind of give that knot some cushion. But that leader right there will improve your catch as far as getting bit off. And it's like I say, it's a little bit expensive, but you know, what's $27 after you spent $500,000 on boats and fishing tackle, and you know, what the hell? You know, it's not so bad. Have you tried any of that, Papa?
No, I've never really used wire.
You haven't?
Well, unless I rig ballyhoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like you. I would use I'd use the the copper colored wire, light as I can go, and I'd use short pieces. Typically, if I'm doing kingfish type stuff, But most of the time, I'm not. I'm using a circle hook, and the trick is you can't just set that rod in the rod holder, because almost every time that fish is gonna eat it, he's gonna get it in his mouth, and if it's a toothy critter, he's gonna cut it. So if you're holding the line and if it's a live bait and you're feeling the bait and you feel him eat it, sometimes you get a little bit better at keeping that hook from going down into his mouth. Right?
You're talking about mono?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's kind of, because I like to hold the rod anyways when I'm live baiting. So
Sure.
But for sailfish, we didn't have to worry about it.
No, we didn't have to worry about them. And
we did get cut a couple times. We probably had some kingfish cut us a couple times.
Yeah, I don't remember one cutting me off, but I think you had a couple.
Well, I let the feast. I let them eat.
But we were, 3 for 5? What were we?
We landed 2, so I think we were 2.
We landed 2 or 3? too. Okay. I couldn't remember. I caught a lot of sailfish last week. So.
Well, the one you had and jumped, and
Yeah, you tell the story.
your bait flew off. I don't know if you guys have been fishing recently, catching any sailfish. Has anybody been out? It's pretty cool. I mean, the fish have been out there, and they're in they're in groups, and we hooked the fish that we hooked when we were fighting them. I was fighting them, and there's at least one following it. There was one with it. Now we didn't want to do multiple hookups. We didn't really have it was just Sam and I and Haley, so we didn't want to have that fire drill going on. But it was really impressive. The fish were I'm fighting the hooked fish, and there's one or two swimming with him. And
when you're shooting video, I'd rather take my chances on landing one than I had two at the same time.
But the interesting thing is they're ready to eat. And, Sam's, when he hooked his, it was close to the boat, and it jumped. The bait flew, and then his hook went that way. And I watched the other fish, come up, eat the bait that flew off his hook. And I had already reeled up to get out of his way, and my bait was still kind of half dead, but he was there. I just tossed it back out, not even 20 feet, and the fish turned on it and ate it.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was exciting. I don't know how much video Haley got, but we don't have it all on this short clip. But it was pretty cool. So if you're ready, when that happens, you can always get a second fish. When you're fighting these sailfish and you get them in close, because the water was beautiful, as you can see in this video. It was flat, calm. We were in 65 feet of water. We could see the fish swimming around us. There weren't very many boats out there, so.
It was a good day. It was a good day, and I don't mind giving away some real secret spots like the Popo does, but.
It was our street.
We were at the Ernest T. Rubble, okay?
It's on the charts.
If you look on your chart, that's where it is. That's where we were. No secret, no big-time secret hole, You hadn't got to hide in the bottom of the boat and all that kind of stuff. Change the background on your pictures. But it was on the Ernest T. Rubble.
There was only one other boat out there.
Yeah.
And they were fishing, and they were hooking fish, but they were fishing the bottom, I think.
I think they were.
I didn't see any sailfish jumping, but the sailfish were thick out there.
The biggest thing is, and I want to caution you a little bit on catching bait. If everybody just kind of keeps their cool and just halfway courteous to the other boats, it's not a problem. I had a guy a couple of weeks ago give me a cussing, and it was terrible. I mean, it was terrible. And I wasn't any closer to him than that wall over there, And it just kind of puts a damper on your day. It puts a damper on your day both ways. It puts a damper on your day because you got mad, or that guy got mad at you, and then it puts a damper on his day because if he's a halfway decent human, it bothers him too. So if you're out there on the bait pile, and don't, a lot of guys want to run their boat wide open around in the bait. That's not a good idea either. So, just take it easy, catch your bait, and normally you usually catch about twice as much bait as you really need. Well, that's my big deal. So you just need to have a little bit of courtesy. I'll never forget when I got my Ranger. First day I had it in the water, some guy hit me with some kind of boat. I don't know what it was. It was one of those with the steering wheel in the front, and it knocked a big chunk out of the back of the boat. He said, "I'll pay for it," but he never did. But I just kind of kept my cool and kept fishing.
We were getting the bait right outside of the inlet.
Yeah, right outside the inlet.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the welcome buoy was gone.
Yeah, the buoy at the inlet's not there.
It's been gone for a while.
Yeah. I don't know when it was ended up missing, but it's not there. But basically, that's where we were catching the bait. Where it was showing up on the chart, and the bait was right there. So it was pretty easy to get. The problem is, like Sam says, you're fishing in there. You're drifting around and you're somewhat in the channel, so people are coming out of the inlet, and I think that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
People are running through you and not really realizing that
You
everybody's
have a
kind of.
preference on the sabikis you use?
That's what I was fixing to talk about. I like a number 8 sabiki. And if you can get them, I like part of them green and part of them red. Because some days the green ones will work, some days the red ones will work. But if you got both of them down there, it's kind of like it's kind of like a man buying hats. You need 3 or 4. I was fixing to make
Is the 8 bigger than the 6? Which I always get them.
The 8s are a little bit bigger and they have a little bit heavier line.
I like the 6
Yeah.
because I like to get the sardines. And I'll tell you a secret that Sam doesn't know. I hooked all the fish, and what I was using was sardines. We had a mix, and I was getting the sardines and putting them
No
on.
wonder you were handing me baits all the time.
I was,
Man, I
He was
can't
giving
believe
He
you.
was giving you the hornbellies.
No, he was getting the big greenies.
Mm,
Sailfish will eat those too, but I think
No wonder you were handing me. I thought you were just being courteous. Mm.
Yeah, we start with the red and greens, and then whoever catches, and then you start looking at what hook they're coming up on.
Right.
The next guy goes with the solid color. and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're getting
it's
stringy.
kind of weird. I don't know what that's about, but with the color difference, the preference. But
Yeah.
they do have a preference.
They certainly do, and and sometimes you have to go to a 6. Sometimes I'll have to go to a 6 to that smaller bait
Right.
to get those fish to hit. Yeah,
Well, the sardines have a little smaller mouth too.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I kind of like. The
And we
sardines.
caught some cigar minnows too.
We did.
Yeah, and bait makes a lot of difference.
That was what we were getting those little tuning on
Mm-hmm.
boneheads.
Boneheads,
That's what I call.
the sardines. I mean,
No, the cigar
the
minnows.
cigar minnows. Yeah.
They seem to like those better.
Yeah. Anyway,
So we were trying to go out, and we were hoping to go out and try to get some mahi, and we didn't really go. I don't think we went far enough, and we ended up. We came in early. I mean, we went 2 for 3, and we were back at the dock by noon. I think 12:30.
actually, we quit about 11.
Yeah.
And
So
come
we,
in.
we were going to go out further, and then Sam said, "Let's go back to where we were," and we went back and we caught another sailfish. So it was a good day, but the fish have been down off of down off of the Loran
Jupiter?
Tower,
Yeah,
out
Loran
of
Tower.
Jupiter, and
Yeah.
we were going to run down there, and we ended up not doing that. But we were ready. We wanted to get them, and Sam wanted to have hopefully get some video and show talk about gaffing them. So
Yeah.
he brought his gaffs in today.
I do want to share that tip with y'all. This is, how many of you got a gaff like this? Maybe shorter?
So that's a 6 foot.
Yeah. How many of you have got a gaff like this? Now, obviously, the difference is in the length. Okay?
Let's show that.
Obviously. That's obvious.
So this
But
is-
what I'm talking about, this is what I want to talk about, is the size of the hook. This hook right here, if you're catching dolphin, anything like 20 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, this is the gaff that I use because the hook is smaller and you can get it into them quicker. This one right here, a lot of times you'll hit him right here and you'll just knock him up out of the water and you won't get him. But if you'll take this little gaff, and especially 8-footer, some boats have the sides are a lot higher than other boats. And you may think that fish is right at the top of the water. But if you look down, it can be really deceiving, how deep that fish is in the water. So what I try to do is I try to put my gaff down. I always put my gaff in, hook down, and I try to put it past him, and then just you don't have to, I see guys, man, looking like they're trying to pull a cork out of a wine bottle. All you got to do is just do that and then just work him right up. But that gaff will really I'm not going to get you, Haley. You're not a gaffer.
You want to show that? Want to show that hook size? I don't think.
Oh, I didn't show it. I'm sorry.
Here, I'll do
Yeah.
it.
you can show it. Good job, Tony. Are you saying I'm not coordinated enough to do that? Yeah, you're probably right.
Here, you take that one.
Okay. Now the long one works good on them people on the bait pile that give you a hard time too.
So that you had this made for you?
Yes, Crowder rods.
Yeah. So that's a nice gap.
Yeah, I like that. It doesn't.
It's
It
got
doesn't.
two handles.
It does not. These. I got some AFCO gaffs that kind of look kind of rough because sometimes I forget to wash them off after I used them. Is there anybody out there that disagrees with that theory about the smaller hook? So, well, man, I feel stupid because I just now figured that out. But it makes a lot of difference. It really does. And gafting a fish, you know, is can be pretty tricky. And you want to, if you can, I like to gaff my fish around the head. The reason I do that is so I can control the business end of that thing. Because kingfish and fish like mahi, wahoo, they got teeth, and I mean they are sharp. Worst accident I ever saw happen was I was in Panama City and I was a mate on a boat called Captain Anderson, one of his boats, and mate one of the other, I was a downstairs wheelman, but one of the mates gaffed that fish in the middle and swung it in the boat, and it bit the guy right there, and I mean it sliced him open, and about that much of his intestine popped out through the hole. And it was man, it scared the Jesus out of everybody. Yes, sir.
It's also good to get the head because when they spit that hook out, their head is shaking about 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's when the hook goes flying into somebody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Into my toe.
We've had that.
Like you did.
And you don't ruin the meat. You don't ruin a fillet if you get them in the head.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I mean, you're not gonna.
I've never seen a gaff hole stop me from eating a piece of mahi. Of course, I'm from Alabama too. I know y'all were thinking that when I was telling that story about that little toonie. Well, that guy probably eats anything. But
He probably
I
eats
grew up-
catfish.
I grew up eating fish, and you know that was one of the reasons I love to fish, because we grew up in the country, and that was our holiday to go fishing. That was our holiday, man. We didn't go to Panama City. We didn't go to Gulf Shores. We didn't go to Disneyland. We didn't go any places like that. First time I was ever on an airplane in my life was when I flew to Vietnam, and that was kind of a bad experience, but you know, so that's the reason I love to fish so much, because it was a holiday. And we caught them right there on the Coosa banks of the Coosa River and fried them in a lard can. You know, had a can with about that much lard at the bottom of it. We built a fire and fried them right there in that can and ate them, and they were good, buddy. Yeah, one of the greatest people in my life was, I'm kind of getting off the subject, was a black fellow by the name of Love, L-U-V. And he had no education. He couldn't no more tell you what was on that piece of paper than I could jump over this building. But he was one of the smartest men I've ever known in my life. He could do anything in the outdoors. In common sense, he could work leather. He could do anything like that. And I've only 2 times I ever saw him cry. It was when I went to Vietnam and when I came back. So he was a great. I tell stories about him all the time. He would plow the mule, and my grandfather had a. I know I'm eating up your time. My grandmother had a big garden, and he would plow that garden with the mule because he didn't really like driving a tractor. But he would plow that garden with that mule, and we were right on the banks of the Tomcat Creek, and the Indians camped there, and he would turn up Indian artifacts all the time. And I'd walk along behind him picking up those artifacts, you know, arrowheads and spear points and that stuff. I had cans of that stuff. and I'd get tired, and he'd put me in the jalousies of his overalls, and I'd put one leg out one side, one leg out the other side, lay on his back, and sleep. And buddy, that was some of the best sleep you ever had in your life. Him working them muscles, it kind of roll your head back and forth. I'll never forget that. But anyway, talking about fishing.
Has anybody here been out recently? Anybody get some fishing in this past week?
You know what, 2 weeks ago,
What'd you get?
mahi and kingfish. Couple,
Right out here? Mahi, kingfish.
Sales and muttons.
Up north?
Here.
Right here, you got muttons?
Right here?
Same pound, north of the same pound, a lot of muttons.
Really?
Really? That's cool.
What were you using for bait?
Dolphins that we got out there, red fins,
Okay. Were you cut or live or whole?
holes, you know, and send the dead one down, butterfly and send them down.
Yeah.
Would you use it? How long a leader you used to catch those muttons?
20, 25.
Yeah, it's,
I don't go too crazy. Some people go like 50 feet.
a lot of the guys are running 60 feet a leader, right?
I don't think you need to go that far,
No,
honestly.
I
When
don't.
they're down there and they're eating, they're gonna eat.
They're gonna eat. That's right.
You know,
Just trying to get away from the
mono. I like to use fluorocarbon, but you know, I don't go crazy with the length or muttons either.
Yeah.
I tell you what though, if you can get non-frozen, ballyhoo, they really like ballyhoo. That's a good alternative if you're not going to do live bait. They definitely eat ballyhoo. Even just plugs of ballyhoo.
Yeah. The best mutton trip I was ever on, we caught 3 limits and off Fort Pierce, back this side of Akaluka Bank on that other one in close. Nobody knows it.
Alkalina Bank on the
Yeah, it's the one in closer. But anyway, what we were doing, we were catching grunts, striped grunts, cutting their head off, and then butterflying them, and then hooking them up and letting them float out there. Buddy, we caught caught a lot of genuine red snapper that day, but we couldn't keep them. But that was a great trip. So
we didn't get out on. We were supposed to get a trip out on for the muttons this year. We didn't get out.
we didn't get out there and go after. We have had a lot of rough water this year. If people, of course, we were on the Sailfish trip last week. We were in that 35 Everglades.
33.
33. Man, that thing was a dream. It eats that rough water for a living, boy.
And good kite fishing, though.
You do what?
And good kite fishing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been out.
You been still doing your kites?
Yeah, it was calm the day we were out there. A guy was out there. He had to use balloons.
Yeah, he was flying helium. It might have been. That'd be me.
Once you got that.
The thing wrapped around my neck and strangled me. You use a kite rod and all that?
Yeah, I got electric reel.
Electric a kite rail on your kite. What what pound test do you use on your kite reel? 60?
Yeah, right.
Braid? Yeah. I need to go with you someday. You teach me how to run them kites.
Yeah, come on out.
Of course, I got.
Where we going? On front, where we going?
I'm exhausted when we get done anyway. I don't know if I needed something else to do on that boat. I'm getting a little bit older.
So, all right, well, we're getting close to our window here. I want to say a couple things. I want to shout out to Keith and the Stewart Rod and Reel Club. These guys are great. A lot of you guys are in that club, and I'm going to start going over more as we get into the fall here, and we're going to try to do a little bit more with you guys as well. So maybe one day you can go over there with me.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to.
We'll take a boat from here and go. You guys are still over at Dolphin Bar?
Yeah.
You want to speak September 8th?
So we'll talk about that. But
With
yeah,
what?
I buy you dinner.
September the 8th? I don't know if I'll be here September the 8th.
we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. I'll check my calendar out. I don't want to do it right here in front of everybody.
But yeah, I want to just give a shout out to you guys.
Thank you.
Stuart Rod and Reel Club has always been one of the premier club in the area. I used to go talk to the fly fishing club a lot, but I don't think it's even in existence
They
anymore.
disbanded.
Did
Disbanded?
they really?
Yeah.
After
But
COVID.
yeah, Is that what it was about?
Well, yeah, they stopped because of COVID and never came back.
But there's a lot of good guys in that. I mean, there's a lot of, and they're pretty diversified. Some of them are beach fishermen, some of them are river fishermen, and some of them are blue water fishermen. So if you get in that club, and you got an opportunity to learn something, and that's what it's all about. Just learning different ways to fish. Of course, I'm so, I don't want to get into it, but the river is just hadn't panned out this year for me at all. Outside of some tarpon, the river just, speckled trout, redfish, I don't know where they are. North, well, yeah, you get up around Round Island and all, I still think you catch some trout and redfish, but I don't know. I guess I'm getting set in my ways. I don't go up that far much. I used to go up there when J.D. DeBluca was alive and we'd fish with him, but he was a real good friend of mine, but he passed away and I hadn't been back up there. But the inlet has been good. Some secret spots there. What color's your boat? Dang, I almost had him. It's a big Pathfinder.
Can't miss it. It has my name on the side.
Yeah, there you go. Funny story. I was guiding in West Point, Georgia, and West Point Lake, and they put all these stripers in there. I mean, they had tons. They loaded that thing up with stripers. The state of Georgia did, and we were all going in the hot summertime. We'd go over there and guide. We'd catch our bait at night around the marina there, around them lights, and then we'd go out and fish in the mornings. And it was a good gig for a long time. And one of the guides, Tommy Mike, he fished on a pontoon boat. He'd carry as many people as he could, and he'd always watch. He's always riding around looking, and see where you was fishing and all. And this one boy named Jim Curtis painted a big sign on the side of his boat that said, "Next time, fish with Jim Curtis," and put his phone number on there. It was so funny, man. And old Tommy Mike, he got upset about that. But anyway.
Speaking of pontoons,
Yeah.
we have the Barletta line, as you
Right.
know, and I was thinking we'd do a video trip in one of our we have the casting cruise, which is set up for fishing, and we might go out and do some
Sure,
shoot some
I'd
video
love
on
to.
a pontoon.
Yeah.
Sorry,
How many live wells I got?
it's got one live well, one big one kind of off to the side, and it's got the two captain's chairs in the back. And the tackle station in the center with the rod holders. It's a nice little setup. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna set something up for.
You know what would really be cool is to go Spanish fishing. Get us about 4 of us on there and go fish
We
for
could do
Spanish.
that. On a
That'd
calm,
really be
nice
cool.
day. Get
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, get out there on a decent day and catch some of those Spanish.
Well, this time of year, the mutton or no, the mangrove snapper are biting too. So we need to maybe run up north a little bit to Fort Pierce and fish up that way.
Yeah. Bartel, I can't remember the name of that show we fished. I could find it on the map though, but anyway. Yeah, I'd love to.
So we'll do that. We'll set.
Has it got a
up.
trolling motor on it?
No, we can put trolling motors on them, but
Yeah.
the ones we have don't have trolling motors currently. We don't order them that way, but
Right.
we've had customers put trolling motors
Oh, sure.
and power poles on.
Oh, sure. And power pole.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be real
Yeah,
cool.
we sold
I'd
one.
love to do
We
that.
put that new one of the customers recently put that new Minn Kota pole on it.
That
Raptor.
Raptor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It came out nice.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in that, come in and see us. We've got some pontoons in stock. Our inventory seems to go up and down. As you can see, our front lot's a little bit empty, kind of sparse right now. But we're getting boats weekly. We're getting used boats for sale. Got a couple of nice boats out there now. We got a Cobia 26, it's a 2019. It's a nice twin engine offshore style Cobia 262. It's a nice little boat. If you know anybody looking for something like that, send them our way.
A lot of people don't realize it, and I forget to think about it sometimes, is one water, which is your parent company.
One Water Marine.
One Water Marine's your parent company. How many marinas do you have, Haley, in just this area around here? 60?
No, overall in the core company's about 70.
And about 70.
Maybe a few more than that now. But here locally, it's Sundance, Ocean Blue, Central Marine.
And
We've
what
got
I'm
a
getting at,
Jettison Yachts, and
Yeah.
we got a lot of stuff in South.
what I'm getting at is Tony and all the other salesmen here have access to all those boats that's in their inventory too. So, you know, it beats the hell out of going on boat buyer and trying to find a boat. And, you know, you make a guy an offer. He said, "Well, I got somebody else that offered $500 more." Well, why is it still on there?
We do have access to the used inventory,
You know.
so
And
it's worth coming in and saying, talking to us.
once you buy one here, they treat you pretty decent. If you're just doing seminars, it's kind of rough. But if you spend some money, they'll treat you like good people.
Anything else, Sam?
I don't have any. What about questions? We got any questions out there? Ladies, I'm glad to see y'all here tonight. It's always a bright spot.
You mentioned mackerel, but you're talking like November-ish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not now.
not now.
Oh, okay.
I'm
No.
talking snapper. I want to go
Yeah.
do some snapper fishing. Maybe
Oh.
one afternoon.
Only thing you can catch out there right now is the lobsters, guys. Of course, they pull pretty good, but they don't jump much. Kind of like them spearfish.
You got any trips coming up?
Not fishing. I've got. One thing you don't want to forget about is this fall, the headwaters up at Fellsmere. You know, that's going to come back in. You know, it's pretty hot up there right now, but this fall, man, you need to make if you haven't made a trip up there, you need to go up there and experience that, because that is some great largemouth bass fishing. And I really haven't crappie fished it that much. I fished it some, but I haven't fished it as much as I have some other places. But it's really a good place, and it's wild as it can be. It's
You're
got
talking about
Fellsmere. Like if you go into
Headwaters
the
Lake.
it's what?
Headwaters Lake.
Yeah, Headwaters Lake.
I fished it the 19th with Nate Shellen, and we probably caught 40 bass.
Really?
Yeah. He's
Who's Nate Shellen?
Okeechobee bass fishing,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
but he does Lake Okeechobee, but he's fishing now Headwater Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And what's shocking was, it was dark, sunrise, and I'm standing there waiting, and there wasn't one mosquito. I couldn't believe it. No no-see-ums. No, I don't know why, but I fished flamingo, and mosquitoes get to me.
Yeah.
It was like crazy. But
Was the wind blowing pretty good?
No.
No?
No.
Really?
I was shocked. But he said sometimes it's bad.
Yeah.
And it was a hot day, but we got 40 bass.
Yeah.
Biggest was maybe 4.5, 5 pounds.
Yeah, but it's so much fun up there. And it's just fun to see all that up there. I mean, man,
It's gorgeous.
they didn't cut much. They flooded that place just like it was. But that's good. And then, in October is always a good month for kingfish. If you like kingfish, and I do like kingfish, I like to eat them and smoke. Yes, sir.
Is anyone fishing the Bonita Blast this weekend? For the wounded veterans?
I'm not.
That's Saturday.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. We got guys out, so I've got to be here, unfortunately. But
Where's that out of?
that's right out of here. That's Bonita Blast is it's wounded veterans. It's a good event.
Probably Pirates Cove is the.
That's what
They do it out of Pirates Cove. So yeah, that's something that's going on this weekend.
Yeah.
it's a fun time.
Yeah, I've got to have my foot operated on Thursday, so I probably won't fish much this weekend. Got to have a joint put in there. Ball my foot.
I'm going down to Key West for a few days at the end of the month. So
Be careful. You're taking your wife?
yeah,
That'd be good.
and my son.
That might not be good.
He's
Young
try-
stout boy
he's
like
tr-
he
He's
is.
trying to get his girlfriend to meet us down there. So we'll see.
Oh. Mm.
Anyways, let's
Y'all
go ahead
gonna
and finish it up.
cohabitate? Don't let him make you jealous.
What?
With his girlfriend.
They're watching.
He's 22.
He's 22,
Yeah.
so the door's open for him, huh?
Yeah. No close.
And her mom is watching live.
Yeah, right.
And the girlfriend was.
She's a sweet girl. She's from Midwest. Anyways, appreciate everybody coming tonight. Thank you if you're watching out there in Facebook land. And come and see us, Sundance Marine. This is Sam's new deadly weapon.
Titanium wire,
So,
and don't fish with Tony. He's a fish hog.
hey, you had your own fishing pole.
Yeah, yeah, but I was fishing bad bait. Now I figured it out.
You got to pay attention, man.
I'm just doing good to stay on my feet.
Maybe all that bait he was giving you was dead.
Well, it was
No,
alive, but
no,
it was the
it was-
wrong one.
It was big greenies he was using. So, all right, we will be
Appreciate
back
y'all.
in September, and we're going to hopefully get some fishing in before that, and we'll talk about,
You know what you want to do.
yeah, we'll probably talk about snapper. Maybe next, we'll try to get some video for snapper fishing.
Get back out there at Peck's Lake, catch some of those yellowtail.
Maybe, yeah. Once it cools off a little bit, but we've got to get out there during the moon.
Yeah,
Got to
exactly.
get out there.
This time of year, the moon's everything.
So, everybody be good out there. Thank you again. And I'm going to go ahead and click us off here. Don't forget to come see Sundance Marine and for all your needs, service, storage, and sales. Thanks.
Good night, Popo.